feel like you can proceed.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call the August 5th, 2024 New Jersey Water Supply Authority Board meeting to order. Ms. Hunt, could you please read the Open Public Meeting Act?
Yes, in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting, including the time, date, and location, has been published in designated newspapers. Notice and the agenda of this meeting, as well as Microsoft Teams and call-in information, have also been provided on the authority's website and are posted in a prominent location in the authority's headquarters.
Thank you. Mark, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Acting Chair Ofori,
Here.
Commissioner Blue,
Here.
Commissioner Havens,
Here.
Commissioner Iaculo,
Here.
Commissioner Pico. Yeah, he's not here.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So this is a reminder that there will be a chance for public comments towards the end of the meeting. I will ask members of the public to wait until that time if they have any comment. I ask for the approval of the June 3rd, 2024 minutes. The minutes was part of the package previously distributed.
So moved.
there-
This is
Okay.
second.
Sorry.
That's okay. Is there a motion then to approve the June 3rd, 2024 minutes and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I would like to request roll call for vote.
Acting Chair Ofori,
Yes.
Commissioner Blue,
Yes.
Commissioner Havens,
Yes.
Commissioner Iaculo.
Yes.
Good. So Mark, could you give the executive director's report, please?
Yes, good afternoon. You all have a copy of my report. In Clinton, June precipitation was 3.67 inches, which was 3.39 inches below average. In July, precipitation was 2.65 inches or 1.81 inches below average. As of today, the combined storage for Round Valley and Spruce Run reservoirs was 93.2% of capacity, compared to a combined historic average storage of 92.7% for that date. June rainfall in Manasquan was 3.7 inches, which was 0.18 inches below average. And in July in Manasquan, rainfall was only 0.99 inches or 3.9 inches below average. Manasquan reservoir storage level as of this morning was 81.4%. The harmful algae bloom unfortunately has returned to the Millstone River. Thus far, this bloom has been far more manageable than the first bloom of 2022. In 2022, the bloom appeared to manifest in the river between Carnegie Lake and the Millstone's confluence with the Raritan River. This year, however, the bloom seems to be central to Carnegie Lake. Carnegie Lake is impounded by a run-of-the-river dam on the Millstone River. From a water supply standpoint, this year's HAB only becomes problematic when it rains and the existing HAB is flushed out of the lake towards the water intakes that are downstream. We are monitoring the situation as a result of the weekend rains. As of this morning, the situation was okay at their intakes. The volumes of extra water that we are releasing specific to managing the HAB have been far less than those in 2022. Further, with Round Valley Reservoir at near full at the beginning of the year, the relative impact to total storage is also far less. Coordination is continuing with regular discussions that include the authority, New Jersey DEP, all the downstream water users, Stony Brook Regional Sewerage Authority, Somerset Raritan Sewage Authority, and now Princeton University, who are the owners of Carnegie Lake. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Mark, are there any communication or correspondence to report to the board for this month?
Yeah, there was one letter, it was in your agenda packages. It was an article that was published by the iBank that highlighted the Round Valley Fund.
Okay. Thank you. Move on to unfinished business. Mark, could you please have your staff report on your system? First, Manasquan Reservoir System and Manasquan Water Treatment Plant Transmission System.
Yes,
Frank said he could.
Frank is not hearing the audio, but is everybody else able to hear the audio? Just nod if you are. Okay.
Yes.
Ole, can you let Frank know that everyone else seems to be managing? Paul,
Will do.
can you please present the report from Manasquan?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. July was a good month at the plant. We pumped a lot of water as one of our customers requested some extra water to get them through the dry period. The plant ran very well. The reservoir is, as Mark said, at 81%, which is pretty normal for this time of year. And with low rain and windstorms, the algae in the reservoir has been remarkably low, and the water quality in the reservoir is unseasonably clear. So we haven't had to rely on the reservoir too much, a little bit in July, and so it was a pretty normal month. The only problems we did experience was due to the heat and I guess excessive power use by customers all around our area. We had some issues with Jersey Central Power and Light giving us low voltage, which was tripping some of our equipment, but we have some workarounds for that, and we're trying to resolve it with that Jersey Central at this time.
Thank you. Next is Raritan Basin System.
Steve Gates, Chief Engineers here.
Good afternoon, everyone. You'll have a copy of the report. In the Raritan Basin, Spruce Run Reservoir is down just over 8 feet from full pool to elevation 264.7 and 72% storage capacity. Round Valley Reservoir is currently down about 1.7 feet to elevation 383.3 and 97.5% storage capacity. Currently, Spruce Run is releasing at a rate of 60 million gallons per day to support water supply customer demand and the HAB that Mark discussed in his report. Releases will continue to be monitored and adjusted in anticipation of continued upcoming rain events. Canal operations are currently normal, with staff focusing on routine maintenance, mowing, and water supply. The emergency procurement project for seepage control on the canal near the workhouse spillway was completed earlier this year. But if you'll remember, we were waiting for low river conditions to be able to evaluate the riverside slope. That evaluation was completed in late July, with authority staff and the consultant witnessing essentially no seepage through the slope, which indicates a successful repair. Just today, we received a memo report from the consultant indicating that no further action is required at that location. Capital project updates at Round Valley. The contractor continues to work through remaining work items, closeout work items, and ancillary work items. The Spruce Run Dam Foundation grouting project. We recently received the New Jersey Dam Safety Permit, which was the last outside agency permit that we were awaiting before we could submit a formal final response to the iBank technical review, which was done last Friday. So the next step is for them to review those responses and perform a SED utilization review before we can receive our authorization to advertise for construction, which we are eagerly anticipating. The South Branch pump station contractor for the pump and motor rehabilitation is continuing to work through those repairs, and the contractor for the traveling water screen replacement project is preparing to mobilize, hopefully very soon. At 6 Mile Run, the contractor is working on the outlet head wall. They're nearly complete with that, and we anticipate construction being finished in August, within the next weeks. For the Prallsville Culvert Pit Repair Project, there were mitigative conditions of approval with the Historic Sites Council resolution of approval. And those conditions represent additional scope for our consulting engineers. As a result, we are seeking approval for a change order that has been prepared and will be discussed later with some of the specifics of that project. We're in the design phase of a project where we will be reconstructing various sections of the upper canal embankment, which is essentially from its origin at the Raven Rock Lock, and it extends about 3 miles down canal to the Paulsville Lock. During the design process, the scope increased beyond what was originally specified for the consulting engineer and the cultural resources consultant. Similarly, a change order for the cultural resources consultant has been prepared and will also be discussed later. Finally, there is a change order presented in the report for Thale Construction for the Round Valley Embankment project for modified paving scope for the South Dam access roads. And that change order was approved by the Capital Projects Committee on July 12th, 2024. That's all I have unless anyone has any questions.
Okay, thank you. Next is watershed management.
Ken Clipstein is here.
Well, I don't really have anything to add to my written report, except to kind of reiterate some of what Mark said about our management of the HAB, you know, and I think compared to 2022, the enhanced coordination between the parties, weekly check-ins with New Jersey American, weekly status reports and monthly meetings. We're doing a lot better job of anticipating and being able to manage through, you know, this hotter weather and below average rainfall. Again, much different HAB from 2022, and the willingness to add partners now to have, you know, the sewage treatment plants and now Princeton University at the table makes a huge difference in how we're able to better mitigate HABs as they form. So I think that's a pretty good success story, and hopefully we don't find ourselves in crisis. We'll see how that goes. And again, on Manasquan, Paul talked about it, where water quality conditions have been comparatively good this year. You know, Manasquan has been problematic historically through the summer months. And we've learned a lot through the development of our cyanobacteria management plan. We made a number of changes to that plan coming into the season, submitted to DEP, and I think that's helped as well. So that's all I have to add to my report. Happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. We move on to new business. First is resolution authorizing amendment number 1 to contract WSA-C22031 for professional engineering services required for the rehabilitation of the Prillsville culvert pit and miscellaneous components of the Delaware and Raritan Canal in Stockton Borough, Hunterdon County, New Jersey. Background, please.
Steve?
Primary portion of the project involves making repairs within a large open channel conveyance pit located adjacent to the historic Prallsville Mill Complex. The pit connects 2 historic stone culverts, and the repairs are necessary as the result of a collapsed stone retaining wall within the pit that failed due to flooding during the remnants of Hurricane Ida. The proposed repair method is to use a precast concrete structure to connect the 2 culverts and backfill the pit to match surrounding grade. This design would fill the existing culvert pit and hide existing historical features. As is typical for nearly all canal projects, the design was reviewed by the New Jersey State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO, who determined that the project represented an encroachment on the historic property and recommended that the project be presented to the New Jersey Historic Sites Council, HSC, for approval. This additional step to present before the HSC is not typical for canal projects and was not included in the original contract. Project was approved by the HSC with specific mitigative conditions requiring additional scope by T&M Engineers, the design consultant, and Richard Grubb Associates, RGA, their cultural resources subconsultant. T&M submitted a proposal in the amount of $47,149 to address additional required scope for themselves and RGA related to the project's proposed encroachment on historically significant features. Staff reviewed the proposal and found it to be fair and reasonable. Staff respectfully request approval of the proposed change order. An appropriate resolution for this action has been prepared and included in the board package for your consideration.
Are there any questions? Okay, I ask for a motion to move the resolution and a second.
So moved.
Second.
second,
Thank you. I would like to request a roll call for vote on this motion.
Acting Chair Ofori,
Yes.
Commissioner Blue,
yes,
Commissioner Havens,
Yes.
Commissioner Iaculo.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is resolution authorizing amendment number 1 to the contract WSA C13014 for cultural resource services required for the reconstruction of various sections of the embankment on the Delaware and Raritan Canal between Raven Rock Lock and Praiseville Lock, Delaware Township, Hunterdon County, New Jersey. Background, please.
Steve again?
In 2013, under two separate resolutions, the authority contracted with GZA Geo Environmental Inc., GZA, for engineering design services, and Paulus, Sokolowski, and Sartor, PS&S, for cultural resources services associated with the subject project. The length of the right embankment of the canal from Raven Rock Lock to Paulsville Lock is a narrow embankment that separates the canal from the Delaware River. It is an historic engineered embankment with stone armoring along both slopes and the crest. Originally, the project's scope included the repair of 8 breached or near breached embankment locations, which had been temporarily repaired by authority staff after regular overtopping related to storm events. After procuring the consultants, field investigations identified additional locations that were vulnerable to breach and in need of repair. It was determined that these areas were caused by erosion due to flow concentration in low areas created by displaced root balls from fallen trees. Interagency review and discussion concluded that since these trees were not originally part of the historic engineered embankment, the trees should be removed to prevent continued future breaches. The project scope was expanded to include tree removal from the entire stretch of embankment and repair to a total of 17 identified work areas. At the request of authority staff, PS&S submitted an amendment proposal for additional work associated with the 9 additional repair locations and the expanded tree removal approach. Paulus, Sokolowski, and Sartor, the cultural resource consultant on the subject project, is requesting a contract amendment in the amount of $46,834 to perform additional work which was not included in their contract. Authority staff reviewed the proposal and found it to be fair and reasonable. Staff respectfully request approval of the proposed change order. An appropriate resolution for this action has been prepared and included in the board package for your consideration.
Are there any questions? Okay, I ask for a motion to move the resolution and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I would like to request a roll call for vote on this motion.
Acting Chair Ofori,
Yes.
Commissioner Blue,
yes,
Commissioner Havens.
Yeah.
Said yes?
Did you hear me?
No.
Now.
I said,
You keep cutting off right before you say yes. Just give me a thumbs up if you say yes. Okay. Mr. Iaculo.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, are there any committee meetings to report, Mark?
No.
Okay. So next on the agenda is public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak should please state their full name and affiliation clearly for the record.
This is Robert Barth, DNR Canal Watch. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. My question is about the HABs. I noticed about a week ago, I was at Rocky Hill and there was a sign posted downstream of the 518 that said that there was HABs in that area. But you just reported that it was stopped at the dam up in Kingston. So my question is, can I canoe the river from below Kingston down, or do I have to wait?
Okay, Mark.
Want to handle that, or? It's sort of variable, Bob. It comes and goes. It's primarily in the lake, but when it rains, it flushes out of the lake. So when we had 2 weeks of dry, the algae levels were low in the river. They are increased now somewhat. I can tell you there's on the USGS gauge, if you go to the Blackwell's Mills USGS gauge, you can check. There's now a phycocyanin level. That's
Oh,
measure of how much photosynthesis is happening. What's the level you should be concerned about?
Well, it depends on that meter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe over 1, you might stay away. If it's over 1.0.
And DEP's tracking all this pretty carefully, so advisories go up if it reaches that level.
That's true. Maybe that is the best place.
That to in my, rather than trying to follow there's a lot of data that comes in, but DEP sort of handles the clearinghouse on that, confirms it, and then posts it. So,
That's true. The DEP has a harmful algae bloom dashboard, I think, right?
Yeah.
That's your best place.
yeah, rather than trying to interpret any given data point, it's much easier. And hopefully they're doing a good job with the signs. I think they've been pretty conscientious about doing that.
okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So it appears that there's no executive session. So we've gone through all the items.
Bob has
Oh,
some.
sorry,
I have a question.
Bob,
go ahead.
Mark, any concerns regarding Tropical Storm Debbie?
Yeah, we're concerned. They're calling for a lot of rain and some wind. It's a little early yet to really have real data on how bad it's going to be, but we're always going to be preparing for those when they're coming, when they're getting closer. But
Okay,
kind of welcome the rain at this point.
yeah, okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, so we've gone through all the items on the agenda. I ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor, say aye. Sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
Wow. Thank you all.
Thank you.
This meeting
Thank
is
you.
adjourned. Bye-bye.
Thank
All
you.
right. Bye.
Bye.